Okay, let's talk about the food you eat. What if I told you it's about to get a software update? And I don't mean a new recipe app, I mean a fundamental, core level change in how food is made, created, and even delivered. We're talking about a future where food isn't just grown, it's computed.
And no, that's not just some clever metaphor. The source material for this whole explainer makes a really powerful case that once you can print food, the most valuable part of the meal is no longer the farm it came from. It's the file, it's the blueprint. Now, I know what you're probably picturing. Some little desktop printer carefully squeezing out a cute chocolate sculpture for a birthday cake. That's the image we all have. But honestly, it completely misses the scale of the revolution we're talking about here. It's so much bigger than that. What if the printer is just the final step, the very end of a brand new system for survival? A system that's designed to replace the beautiful chaos of weather, pests, and seasons with the cold, hard, predictable logic of a factory floor. So to really understand this, we need to look way beyond that novelty printer and dig into what we're going to call the 5-layer food stack, because this is the engine that's actually changing everything.
Right, so here's the crucial point. We're not just talking about upgrading farming, we're talking about replacing it with a computational pipeline, a system that's built from the ground up for total consistency, maximum efficiency, and absolute control. And this pipeline, it has 5 interconnected layers. It all starts with manufacturing cells, then it moves to programming microbes, then creating perfectly controlled environments run by AI, and only then, at the very, very end of the line, does the food get assembled or printed. Okay, layer 1, cellular agriculture. You've probably heard about this, with companies like Upside Foods and Good Meat getting the green light from US regulators to actually sell cultivated chicken. The signal couldn't be clearer. We are literally turning biology into a predictable manufacturing process. You put cells in, you add nutrients, and you get protein out. It becomes computable. Next up is precision fermentation. And honestly, this is where the real takeover is happening, kind of quietly behind the scenes. See, instead of raising an entire cow just for its milk proteins, you can now program microbes to just produce those exact proteins directly. These become your stable, consistent food primitives. Think of them like Lego bricks, or maybe even better, like the ink cartridges for that food printer we talked about. Layers 3 and 4, these two really work together as a team. Indoor farming creates the perfect, data-rich, controlled environment that AI and robotics need to thrive. I mean, AI hates chaos. It hates unpredictable variables. And what is traditional outdoor farming? It's pure, beautiful chaos. This is exactly why the most high-value crops are already moving indoors. And all of this finally brings us to that last layer, printing and assembly. The real disruption here isn't about making fancy desserts. It's about moving the final step of making a meal to the very edge of the network. Imagine a hospital, a military base in a remote location, or a neighborhood hub creating customized, highly nutritious food on demand without relying on a fragile long-distance supply chain. So, once you have this entire stack in place, the entire economic landscape of food just begins to invert. The old sources of power and value get completely turned on their head. I mean, this contrast here pretty much says it all, doesn't it? The old world of food was one with physical things, land, water rights, a favorable climate. The new world? Well, the new world is one with intellectual property. It's about owning the biological blueprints, the AI optimization models, and the troves of data. And this analogy from the source material just nails it perfectly. Traditional farming is like that beloved local bookstore. It can be excellent, it can be authentic, it can be vital to the community. But this new food stack, it's the streaming platform. It doesn't just compete with the bookstore, it fundamentally redraws the map for the entire industry. Which leads us to a really uncomfortable, maybe even lethal question for the old system. If you own 1,000 acres of prime farmland, but you don't own the proprietary cell line or the software that generates the perfect texture, are you really in charge of the food supply anymore? The answer is probably not. And you know what happens when a technology becomes a genuine threat, right? The fight moves out of the lab and straight into the legislature. And that is exactly what's happening right now. This isn't science fiction anymore. This is politics. I mean, just look at how quickly this escalated. In 2023, cultivated meat gets a green light from U.S. regulators. Less than a year later, Florida passes a law banning it specifically to protect its agricultural heritage. And by 2025, we're already seeing federal lawsuits. That kind of speed tells you one thing. The threat is perceived as very, very real. Because look, the public debate might be about whether this new food is gross or unnatural, but let's be honest, that's mostly a distraction. The real fight is about power. It's a battle over who will own the food pipeline, who will control the intellectual property, and who gets to set the standards for what we even call food in the 21st century. So, what does the end game actually look like? How does a pillar of human civilization, something as fundamental as traditional agriculture, actually get disrupted? Well, it doesn't happen overnight with some big explosion. It happens through what you could call a slow siphoning. First, the really high margin and specialty products, think specific proteins, medical foods, they move to the new system. Then, as manufacturing scales up and costs plummet, it starts to take over the staples. The whole distribution model flips. You're not moving trucks full of food anymore, you're moving data files. And eventually, the old system dies, quietly. Not with a bang, but with spreadsheets that show it's just not competitive anymore.
And this is the final stage, the logical conclusion, the file economy of food. It's a future where the most valuable agricultural asset isn't physical at all. It's not land, it's not a tractor. It's the data. It's that proprietary formula that dictates the perfect texture, the flavor profile, and the nutritional content. A farm can always buy a new tractor. It can't easily buy a decade's worth of bioprocess optimization data.
And here is maybe the most cynical, but also the most honest takeaway from all of this. The goal of this new food stock isn't to win a Michelin star or make you fall in love with it. The goal is to be cheaper, more consistent, and available absolutely everywhere. This is a victory that's won on logistics and economics, not on emotion. Which, of course, leaves us with the final critical question. The goal is to make it everywhere. But what happens to our society, to our economy, and to our very relationship with the natural world when this new system finally achieves its goal of being truly and completely everywhere?